Hey everybody, welcome to Hit Rewind. I fucked it up again. Michael and Kersey's on the other side.
This time, hey, how's it going? But this time we looked up before we hit the start,
This is true.
so it doesn't really count. This is the first time.
Oh, well, no, we've done it right a couple other times, but like out of what, 200 episodes that we've done together now, that's a pretty low percentage. I'd be kicked out of the minor leagues. I'd be sent back to farm league where it's just you and a goat. And the goat's the pitcher.
It's legit. It's legit.
All right, everybody. So we were back in the 70s. This episode, we're going to be discussing Coffy, Judge Roy Bean, Private Parts, and Badlands. So we're going to start off with Coffy. Pam Grier has done a few movies before this, but Coffy is her showcase. She is out there now. She is a star. And because of this, and the next few films out of her repertoire, she becomes a fucking legend. And you just see it. You see all that energy, that determination, she's sexy, she's badass, she's dramatic, she's committed to it. She just it was kind of a wake up call. The only problem is not a lot of people got the wake up call. You know what I mean? Like it took a while for women to become action stars, like decades.
Yeah, even now it's still very lopsided.
Yeah.
And even if there are, they're usually just rip-offs of other movies. Like Atomic Blonde is basically just John Wick. Like there is no sense of like originality to it.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, let's just gender swap it. It's like
Right. Or things like Salt, where they offered it to Tom Cruise and I think a couple other people first, and then they was like, well, forget it. Let's just go with Angelina Jolie. That's who's available. You're talking Coffee specifically written for Pam Grier, and she fucking owns it.
absolutely no shit.
I love the fact that it had the nerve, which is nothing that really happens now in action movies, is that she's out of her element completely. And now they would say, well, she used to be an ex-CIA agent. Now she's retired. She's a nurse and they got her, they did her wrong. And so she uses all her acquired skills over the last 20 years or whatever. No, it's not like that at all. She's just a fucking nurse who's really goddamn pissed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she's going undercover. She wants to find the drug lords that got her sister killed. And just if she has to pose as a hooker, that's what she's willing to do. And, just horrible people she has to involve herself with just to get to the final goal. That's kind of like, what's that fighting style that Christian Bale developed for Batman Begins, where you take all the hits to get to your goal? I think it's Krav Maga or something like that. It's like that. That's a really stupid analogy, but I will not pretend in any way whatsoever that I don't love how funkified this movie is. God damn, those costumes, everything. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And they use that in Jackie Brown, but I'm talking like not just the sound, the look, the feel. I love that during this era for about 6, 7 years, this was a community, for the most part, of Black filmmakers, musicians, actors getting together to make movies on a very low budget, but they were in control. And then, I don't know, maybe what they said was there was just too many of them, and it watered down the genre to the point where people just weren't interested anymore. I also say that Star Wars changed everything. It just, no one wanted to do small budget movies that, hey, this cost $500,000 to make 5. That's a really hearty profit. No, now they were searching for goddamn Star Wars and Jaws money.
Right. It's basically just betting on the next frame.
Yeah. And there were franchises in this, but usually only for like 2 or 3 movies. You had Shaft, Superfly, Slaughter. I don't think that Pam Grier ever had her own franchise. She hopped into a couple other ones like Blackula. She was in the second one. A couple other things there. Bucktown, I think, was a sequel. But it is kind of surprising how fast they ditched this. Whereas fucking hillbilly movies, they launched the same exact time and they stuck around to the mid fucking 80s.
Think of at least one.
Yeah. Yep. Not gonna say. But yeah, I really think it's just a fun ride. The films actually do get better, but there's something about this one, like it's like, oh, like a spark went off, and people said that's a star right there.
I mean, you can absolutely tell just by like the first scene, just immediately. embellish you.
Yeah, and it's funny is of all the actors from that genre, really the only one that survived was Pam Grier because she knew as the genre was dying to pivot herself to, more supporting roles. She was in a couple of the Seagal movies. She was in Fort Apache with Paul Newman. She just knew, let's stop making the low budget movies and try to open myself up to a new audience in the 80s. She was. God damn it, she's so fun in that. And then, of course, the music in this is used again in Jackie Brown. And that's, 20 something after her peak, she has a comeback. Sadly, I think because she was an older woman, I don't think studios really knew what to do with her. But at least she still got, strong supporting roles in studio films instead of just being cast off to direct a video shit. Anything else you want to say about this before we move on to Judge Roy Bean?
The movie just speaks for itself. She's incredible. The movie is great. It's just hardcore, uncompromising violence committed by a woman against men, and it works super well because it doesn't try to bog down with any kind of needless bullshit or padding. It just is what it is, and she sells it 100%.
Nothing cooler than seeing her with that sawed-off shotgun. Fucking hell yeah. I think, what's on my fridge? Oh no, it's Foxy Brown. I have a little magnet poster of Foxy Brown. We'll get to that one. So Judge Roy Bean. Now, normally I would not have put this on here because on paper, it seemed very mainstream. But something about it caught my attention. The cast was nuts of all the supporting roles. We have John Huston, legendary director who's been making movies since the late 30s. And Paul Newman's first production, and the fact that it's written by John Milius, goddamn nutcase John Milius, and I think that's why the movie has a unique voice. I did get a little shaky halfway through when it started to get kind of mainstream, and I was like, oh, there's that, there's the romance. It feels like so John Milius said he was really angry because his script was very anarchy, just a reposition of what the Western could be during that time. And that John Huston got nervous that people weren't going to like the character and not show up for the movie. So he did pull his punches. I really wish I could find that original script and see how insane it really was.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing about this movie. So let's just quickly, because unlike Coffy, there's probably not too many people that have seen this movie.
Yeah.
Very briefly, a man goes into a town, immediately gets lynched, really for no reason, just because these people are horrible. But he manages to survive, comes back, and acts his own vengeance, and that would.
Yeah, if it's a Clint Eastwood movie, that is.
This is the first 10 minutes of the movie, and the rest of it is basically him deciding that he is going to be the leader of this town in which he almost died in. And the rest of it is more his journey leading this town, trying to hold on to the preservation of its time period, but progress, moves on, and he's kind of fighting this endless tide.
Yeah, it's originally this was, I want to say it was Lee Marvin was offered it. He turned down. Warren Oates was the other one, and that's what they really wanted to go with. And the studio went back in unless they had a big name. So that's when they went to Paul Newman. I will say it's nice seeing Paul Newman play against type. He's really surly and kind of nasty and just gross. So that was impressive. I've always liked Paul Newman, but it does feel like there's something they feel like they needed to get someone just a little grittier, maybe not a mainstream star. But I think that opening sequence where he gets hung and basically gets his revenge inside that little bar is one of the greatest action sequences of his time period. It's so well shot, choreographed, and he's absolutely goddamn efficient and ruthless taking all these people out.
I was so waiting to be like a really bad dummy being dragged behind the horse. No, that was a guy the whole time. And It looks fantastic.
I wish the rest of the movie was like that first chunk. And it kind of, so he is not a good guy. He is a thief and he gets hung, but for these guys are even worse. And then, he said he becomes a judge. It's a true story, by the way. And John Milius, apparently that was his great uncle or something like that. And just wanted to show this guy who was out of his fucking mind, making up his own laws and rules and really not adhering to anything that was civilized or decent. The only thing is you side with him because you see a civilization does come in. They're just as ruthless. Just because they have manners doesn't mean they're any better than him. Yeah, just wiping the town out, destroying the people, and just it is a very interesting character piece. But I do wish it had not pulled its punches.
Yeah, it really felt like it. In a lot of places, it really felt like a comedy when the situation really doesn't call for it. And you could say that it's like a dark comedy situation, but it doesn't really land very well, especially the aforementioned bear scene. There's a scene where a crazy man just drops a bear into town,
Yeah.
and they befriend it and go on picnics with it and have a whole music sequence. And it's like, what the fuck is this
Yeah.
scene doing in this movie? It's
It,
like a whole 10-minute sequence that feels like it's from a completely different.
yeah, and that was one of those reading the production notes. Those were forced in there to lighten the tone because apparently the original script is very macabre, like just really dark and demented and really like out there. I wish we could see that version.
Correct, because by the end, I thought it was going to go in this really interesting direction. Because by the end, it starts to make a lot of commentary about him as a character and the way that he's abusing his power in the same way that the other people did.
Yeah.
And it's more like the idea of who this man is, especially when he goes out of his town and immediately basically gets robbed and he's just basically just treated like just some average Schlo in that time.
Yeah.
And I think what's so interesting is like at that point in the movie, I was like, oh, this could be like this really interesting like character study where it's like his complete like iron grip control in this town is all just like this means of trying to gain control of his life, trying to make sense of something horrible and random that happened in his life. And he's like externalizing that. And he's putting everyone else in this really difficult position who then fight back.
Yeah.
And kind of do, but doesn't go far enough. Like there's a point where he tries to hang an innocent man. I was like, oh my God, this is great. This is like the turning point of the movie. This is where he goes full villain. Like,
Yeah, if that's another one of those where you're like, okay, so they're gonna rise up, they're gonna stop him. There's gonna be a lot of people that die along the way, but in the end, he'll get what he deserves. No, yeah. So I like I said, if I had not recommended this, I don't know. It's still interesting to discuss, but I feel like it's not really in our wheelhouse. We try to do like more cutting edge movies. I will say,
I would say this is. I do think it fits. I mean, it's definitely dabbles with a lot of different styles and genre.
Mhm.
Like there's the first, like, I mean, the opening is just incredibly dark, gritty, messed, almost like practically horror for this genre. And then it goes to this really interesting style where it's almost like a documentary, where it's like people recounting their encounters with Judge Roy Bean.
Yeah, so but then it kind of fades away. There's another great sequence with Stacy Keach as like the shock white hair villain there to get vengeance on Judge Roy Bean, and he acts like such a goddamn badass. You think there's gonna be this huge showdown? He's like, "No, fuck! I'll just blow your guts out with a shotgun from the back."
Through a bar, you can't even see me because, like, why would I even entertain the idea of a gunfight? Which, like, yeah, why would you? It doesn't make sense. Like, what? His pride is not on the line here. Like, he's terrorizing the town, and that was also a great, seemed a great inversion of the tropes they would come to expect from this time.
Yeah. So our third film is Private Parts, and I thought was a truly fucking fascinating film, and I would love to watch this again and again. I had never heard of it. I just stumbled across it, and it feels like in that whole world of early, underground midnight cinema. And I wonder if this was even talked about at the time.
It's definitely of its time. I don't know if I have a lot to say about it, but it definitely feels like how do I explain this? Like an American, Italian, American horror film.
Okay, so it feels, so it's a New York, low budget, sleazy kind of little movie, but it feels like this would have fit right in with like a theater showing porn and then another one showing giallo films. And this is like, I mean, like, yeah. Yeah, it feels like that because there are full-on horror movies, but there's also like these really interesting psychological stuff, character pieces, and sexual issues that they're dealing with. And I was just fascinated by this movie.
Stumbles a little bit out of the gate for me, where it's like, all right, it's like we're just kind of meandering here, but then it really starts to solidify in the second half for me, where we really get to meet our our character.
Yeah. Well, I mean, once the head gets chopped off and goes flying, you're like, hold the fuck on. What just happened? And it becomes like a different movie. So this is from Paul Bartel, kind of like, at the same time John Waters is rising, so was Paul Bartel. And he did the absolutely fascinating Death Race 2000, Eating Raoul. He was really big with the whole Corman scene and underground kind of cinema. Sadly, towards the end, I think he did a lot more mainstream stuff. But, hey, you're getting older. You can't get a movie made. Why not? Get your bills paid.
Yeah, they're not really going to let someone who has a career risk it all on something like this.
Yeah. Well, that, I think, yeah. Yeah, it's like $150,000. It was shot basically in one location. I kind of miss seeing movies set in these really sleazy fucking hotels that get turned to long-term apartments. The whole thing is really unnerving. They do set that tone where it's like the whole shared bathroom and you're just not comfortable. Like you feel like something's just off. And, this plain as the fact that someone just wants to use the bathroom, they're angry because they never get the chance to poop. But it feels so aggressive because... Yeah, I have a friend who stays in one in Portland all the time. And he's like, sharing a bathroom is hell, but it's so much cheaper than renting up, like a normal hotel.
Yeah, and I would have to like plan my midnight shifts because that's the only way I could do it comfortably when I was living in a dorm.
Yeah.
And I always feel that everyone else is doing the same thing because I'll go there as soon as I realize there's nobody in there, just dart in and I'll just wait until I have to go. And then I'll just like see or hear a bunch of like, footsteps come in and immediately leave because they're like, it's his turn.
I actually thought this was shot in New York. Son of a bitch. It was Los Angeles. Yeah. So MGM was supposed to pick this up, but they turned it down when it got an X rating, and New World Pictures, Roger Corman's company, distributed it. It didn't do well at the box office, but I do feel like this is something that would have played very well with Rocky Horror Picture Show or Phantom of Paradise. Like, there's no musical element, but there's like that kind of off-kilter thing that I would appeal to certain audiences.
Yeah, it has a very specific feeling that it's going for, and it plays into a very unique for the time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's obsessed with, if they're chopping up people, I actually expected to see a body put together from all the people that were killed, to tell you the truth. Yeah.
Yeah, made situation.
And it was basically like a blow up doll, but he was taking all these photos of her and put them on there. Here's the thing that absolutely fascinated me is when she discovers it, she's not turned off. She's turned on and she's very fascinated by it. And then everything just goes wrong from there, but not from her perspective or the killer's perspective so much, but from the mother, or was the aunt? I can't remember. I think it was her aunt and then his mother. Yes. But the thing that I didn't really understand, the whole twist at the end, explaining to me exactly. So our villain, in quotation marks, was a woman. Was a transgender? How do you explain this?
Okay, so basically it's like the same thing from a sleepaway camp.
Yeah.
It's basically the mother had like raised this woman to think that she was a man.
Okay. But she was not related to, right? So was she
unrelated, not blood related?
Okay. That is
basically the villain, the main character's aunt is like gathering Wayward girls.
as a replacement son. Did she lose a son, or she just never got a son and then she decided to do this?
I don't know. I think it had more to do with like sensuality. I think she was just like so, because she had mentioned that like the women that she would do this to were like promiscuous, and she was just like really.
Oh, okay. Yeah, really bizarre, fascinating performances. I'm gonna watch this again since I have so many questions. I feel like I want to just go sit and really lock in and focus on this movie.
Performance from the person that was the killer was really interesting. They really went for it, especially in one scene. So there's the blood doll, a needle full of blood.
Yo, yeah.
To the doll, and that's why I thought like, oh, you're gonna turn this doll into a human. You're gonna like craft parts on it.
Yeah, or some sort of Frankenstein, thing.
Yeah, blood, and then like the moans of like an orgasm and like the pulsating needle filling with blood, really freaking creepy. Like,
yeah. So he was trying to inject her with the. Was he trying to take blood out of her, or he was taking blood from someone else and trying to put it into her?
I got
All right. Well, that's enough. Seriously, you need to go watch this movie. It's finally, it was lost for a very long time. I had this on VHS back when I had, yeah, but I just never got around to watch it when I had all those VHS movies. And then I just got the digital copy of it. I was like, oh shit, I should have watched this all those years. Then, back when I was working with you, I would have told you about this. We're like, holy shit.
somehow I don't know.
Nice. Who knows? It'd be funny if it was my copy.
Oh shit! You know what? That probably is your copy.
I feel like I was donating a whole bunch of VHS tapes as I was getting ready to leave. I can't remember. Okay.
I think that's yours.
I think you also ended up with a copy of Kickboxer for whatever reason.
Maybe. I think I also have Dr. Jekyll and Mrs. Hyde. Maybe that's yours.
Ooh, yeah, I remember that one. All right, so our last film is Badlands, Terrence Malick's debut. It is fascinating to me. Yeah. Terrence Malick did 2 movies in the 70s, critically acclaimed, successful, and disappeared for 20 years, and then just casually, hey guys, I'm doing a World War II movie called The Thin Red Line. Y'all want to show about it? And everybody said yes. Based on Badlands and Days of Heaven. It's amazing to me that 2 little movies like that really locked in something for actors. Like I desperately wanted to work with this director.
And it's basically a precursor. Oh, what's that Woody Harrelson and Juliette Lewis movie?
Natural Born Killers, but I also see a lot of true romance here. The music is the same. I don't know if it's exact same or it's very similar to what Tony Scott used in True Romance. Yeah, it's an inverted, whereas they're not really bad people, and what I mean? If you take everything in Badlands and kind of flipped it the other direction, that's kind of True Romance. Sticking to the cities, there's tons of characters after them, but all the characters are bad people, whereas it's the exact opposite in Badlands, where it's desolate. It is bleak and sparse, and everybody that's after them is basically good guys.
Yeah, I found it really interesting. I don't know, like I kind of don't know how to feel about it. I didn't like this movie overall. I thought that
So Sissy Spacek and Martin Sheen.
phased through the whole movie. She doesn't really have any like particular thoughts or feelings about any of the things that she's witnessing. She's kind of just recounting them as just events.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is basically based on a true story of Charles Starkweather, which, if you remember in Frighteners, that is a plot point that he is desperately trying to get more kills than Charles Starkweather. And so they couldn't get they wanted to kind of make it their own. So it's the bare bones of that story, but it kind of in its own direction. But it was about this not innocent girl, but kind of, I don't want to say like empty girl. Do you know what I mean? Like just almost like an empty vessel where she doesn't really feel anything. She doesn't have any dreams. She doesn't really have any motivations. She's just going along because it seems like what she would, why not?
She doesn't really have anything else going on in her life.
Yeah, I mean, then her dad killing the dog was fucked up, and I think that really was like the final like click. Like, yeah, kill my dad, fuck him. Hell, I probably would have killed him too.
Right? Yeah, it's such a. It's like she's so cut off from everything and anything that she almost doesn't really have emotions.
Yeah, she doesn't have anybody to bounce off of except for her father, basically. And so this guy comes in and he's a ball of energy. He's got ideas. He's got things he wants to do. He falls in love with this girl, in quotation marks, falls in love. I think it's just because he found her easy to manipulate, and she acquiesced everything that he was interested in doing, and those include murder. Well, and it's so funny as the movie goes on, he starts to see himself like a Bonnie and Clyde Robin Hood. What are we going to call it? He thinks that he's going to be famous, some sort of legendary folk hero. And I mean, people kind of know the name if you're like into serial killers and stuff like that, mass murderers. Starkweather is a name. But for the most part, it's just like, no, it's not the way it is now, where this seems like, oh, everybody knows the person's name. There's movies about them. There's books written of them. You get interviews in prison. That's like post Charles Manson. Whereas this guy was just like, no, you're going to die. That's it. Boom.
Yeah. And that's the thing that's also really interesting about him as a character / person is that a lot of his murders are very unmotivated.
Yeah.
You just kind of feels it out.
It's like, oh, why not? All right, here we go. Let's just this person here, this person here. Half the time, I'm not even sure he kills the person. Like the time that he shoots into the basement, I don't even think he even killed the guy, but he's just like, wow, fuck. Like, if you're gonna shoot the guy, just shoot him in the back of the head. Don't shoot him after you close the door. This is such a weird choice.
Yeah, and then it's like, well, it might be.
Yeah, let's get the fuck out of here. Yeah, or like when he's kind of excited, he goes, "Today is the day. I knew it. I knew it was going to be today," and just ready for it. Remember, he could get away.
Is that in his version of like what this is going to be like? This is blaze of glory with this girl by his side. She's like, nah, I'm just going to wait here. I'm
Yeah,
just going to let the police pick me up. He's like, wait, what? Like this whole life that he has planned out, it just like never really goes the way that he wants it. But that's the other thing too. He doesn't really have.
well, it's all impulse and not thought out at all. But it is very interesting. Well, and it's not just the performances. I mean, this is what made Mark Sheen a name, and I can see they're constantly talking about how he's kind of like a James Dean wannabe. And it's like, that's the whole thing, is his character is a wannabe. He really is nothing.
Yeah, and you should go watch this movie. It's really fascinating. I
Yeah.
really don't know how to explain it. It's just so strange. He's such a strange person. Doesn't his actions and motivations make no sense other than to himself, which he doesn't share.
Yeah. And Terrence Malick directs this in a way that allows that to happen, is for things to be vague and unanswered and not clear. And because it's not dreamlike, but some of the sequences he films, they're set back. They're very, I guess, cinematic. You know what I mean? Like he's painting pictures. It's like watching painting, and paintings don't always tell you exactly what it means. It's supposed to be interpreted in certain ways. And I thought, and I want to see Days of Heaven now because I'm fascinated by this film. There had to have been something in both of these movies for everybody to be so delighted that he finally came back. But no one's talked about his movies since Thin Red Line. He's made like 7 more. Yeah, and Gilliam. I mean, some people have signatures. I love John Carpenter's signatures and John Woo's, but they are kind of the same thing. I know that was a cinematic curse right there. Sorry, everybody. I love John Carpenter, but a lot of these already have that. He has a template, I guess, is what you want to say.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, like if you go through like his entire like late '80s to '90s catalog, yeah, whether it's They Live, Prince of Darkness.
Yeah. But yeah, check out all 4 of these films. Judge Roy Bean, I would say probably the least of the bunch. Which one would you say absolutely you gotta see?
Oof, oof, oof. That's going to be a toss up between Coffee and.
All right. That is it for this episode, everybody. Thank you, Kersey.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, everybody. Thank you for listening. We're out.